All right, Matt. So do you know what the biggest lie ever told in the universe is?
Man, I wish I'd have known this before you were going to ask. I got to come up with something real funny to say, but what? What is it?
It is, I have read and agreed to the terms and conditions of this website. Everybody tells that lie.
Ain't that the truth?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother? It's been a little while.
Yeah, it feels like I hadn't been in here forever.
Right?
I mean, it feels like we've been gone forever. Y'all hadn't noticed, but we have.
Yeah, we've had, both of us have had some personal things come up, and then we both took a vacation. Yep. And so y'all didn't realize it because, we're good like that, and we got ahead and able to keep putting out episodes. But it's been several weeks since Matt and I have actually sat down in the graveyard and had a discussion. So it finally feels back to normalcy now, which is nice.
And I learned some things while we were off.
Oh yeah.
Well, I learned how to build a fence. So I built Amanda and I built a privacy fence at our house.
Happy to have you in the fence building club.
I was surprised. I've learned that I actually do have a green thumb. That forever I thought I couldn't grow anything, and we've got more flowers and we've got tomatoes coming up, and I'm like, wow. And I learned something when I got back to work. It's still. It not only is it hot in Tennessee, it's ridiculously humid.
Yeah.
And I have learned that since I've grown my beard back, that wearing a mask and humidity makes my beard curl up.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. Well, I noticed it's something similar. I mean, mine's a lot longer in the front there than yours is, but mine, it doesn't like curl like yours does, but mine will get stuck in this loop, like where it kind of is curl, but it's not like the hair is curly. It's more like I've got mask beard. You got hat hair. Well, I've got mask beard, and I'm with you. A mask in the South during the summer is, it's bad, and it's worse when you got facial hair.
Yeah, I may just put my mask on and then shave around it as a guide, so I have a beard shaped mask.
There you go,
a mask shaped beard rather.
I like it. They actually did have this thing that was out for a while that it was a goatee shaper. And you would put it in your mouth and bite down on it and then twist these dials, and it moved it like up and down and in and out. And then you would just take your clippers and shave around it for your goatee. And when I saw that, I was like, hold on. So you're telling me you've got to have a stencil to get a goatee on your face?
You found this on the Wish app, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And it was only like 2.5 inches large. Yeah. It was... Now, I don't remember where I saw it. So before we get too far off on a tangent, I wanted to thank Podbelly. Go to podbelly.com if you want to find some more podcasts to listen to. And if you're thinking about starting a podcast, you've been stuck at home for 18 years or whatever it feels like now, and you're wanting a creative outlet and you want to start podcasting, go to podbelly.com, and they've got some resources to help you out. We also wanted to thank Eddie and Diana for sending us some packages. We've got a new P.O. box, and you guys were the first to send us something to the new P.O. box. If you want to send us anything, the address is down in the show notes, and it's on our website as well. You know, we will mention you on the show if we get something from you, and we always appreciate getting stuff from you guys as long as it's not like a haunted object that I have to then bring into my home. I'm okay with it.
Or food. Don't send us food, because if you do, I won't get it. Adam will eat all of it.
Well, I can send it to you, but it just wouldn't be any good at that point. Well, and that brings up a good point. If it's going to go bad, if it's quickly perishable, don't send it, because I only check that P.O. box once a week, once every other week. So I'm not going there every day where I'd get something. Oh, hey, it's fresh fruit. By the time I got there, it'd be a puddle in the bottom of the P.O. box. And the postman would hate me. So, but yeah, we just wanted to thank Eddie and Diana for being the first to send something to the new P.O. box.
You guys.
Are you looking for a new podcast that talks about, well, everything? If so, you might want to try out my new podcast, Because I Want to Know. The show where I get into people's heads and discuss how the choices in their lives have affected them. We could be talking about anything from true crime, the paranormal, or, I don't know, metal detecting. I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of what makes people do what they do, a kind of stalking you just can't do on Facebook. So join me each Monday as I sit down and have a chat with some amazing and fascinating guests, going through seemingly ordinary lives.
So on that note, Matt, why don't you tell us what are we talking about tonight?
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about a topic that I'd been kind of pitching around in my head and threw it out to Adam, and we finally got to it. It's something that I really got into recently watching the show Westworld. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of struck a chord with me, and it made me think back to movies that I really dug, you know, like Terminator and The Matrix and War Games, if you're as old as I am. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. And not just the intelligence Matt and I have that where we make you think we know something. It's completely artificial.
Yeah.
But this whole idea of are we advancing this technology to the point that we could either replace ourselves, you know, or according to the movies, allow a machine to take over.
Right.
So we're going to discuss a little bit about what artificial. I think everybody knows what it is, but you don't really know a lot of the details and how the industry actually looks at it and the terminology and things like that. So Adam's going to discuss a little bit about the history, and then we're going to really have a big discussion on what are the potentials here, you know, good, bad, and otherwise.
Right. And like Matt said, I got a bunch of stuff here that we can talk about, and this really allowed me to indulge my nerdiness. You know, Matt brought this up, and I was like, you know, I think that would be something cool to look into and talk about, because it kind of falls in line with what we talk about here in the graveyard. It's something that, you know, it's kind of mysterious to us right now. We have inklings of what it would be like, but it could also be really bad. Could be really good, could be really bad, depending on which side of the fence you're on with the debate. But this allowed me to get into some of the history of looking at AI and all that. So this is from an article from builtin.com. And we have to first look at what artificial intelligence is. So in computer science, artificial intelligence, or AI, as we'll probably say from here on out, sometimes called machine intelligence is intelligence demonstrated by machines, unlike the natural intelligence displayed by humans or animals. So as machines become increasingly capable, tasks that are considered to require, quote, intelligence are often removed from the definition of AI, which is a phenomenon known as the AI effect. So it's there's a quip from Tesler's theorem, and that's Tesler's, T-E-S-L-E-R-S, not how someone from Boston would say Tesla. That it's actually Tesler's theorem, and he says AI is whatever hasn't been done yet. So,
okay.
Basically, he's saying that if, way back in the day, when my granddad first learned computer programming, it was still in the punch cards. So you would punch out a card to tell the computer what to do, and you would feed it in, and it would read off of that what it wanted or what you wanted it to do. So, it still wasn't learning on its own or doing anything on its own. It was going out of exactly what you told it.
Right.
So at that point in time, what our computers do now with calculating taxes or these long advanced equations that you put in and it calculates for you, all that would be considered artificial intelligence according to Tesler's theorem. But now that it does that, because of the AI effect, that's not artificial intelligence anymore. That's just computers. So
right.
Artificial intelligence would be okay. Some of the other stuff we're going to talk about, but it gets into, okay, can it differentiate between humans and between humans' emotions? Is this human mad or sad or whatever? That's something that we as humans take for granted because it's built in, into our brain to do, but computers don't understand emotions, and that's something we have to teach it to learn. So according to the Tesler's theorem, that is considered artificial intelligence, and what we use, the computer that we're using right now, is not AI.
Yeah, and I remember being a kid in elementary school back in the early 80s. The idea of personal computers was still fairly new. I mean, you didn't have one in your house. I mean, I had like one or two friends that had like a Commodore 64. When I was 12, I had a Texas Instruments computer, and I'm doing air quotes. It was a computer-like thing. I mean, really, for what computers were doing at the time. But I remember the terms that we had to learn, like in second and third grade, and one was garbage in, garbage out. A computer at the time was only going to spit out what the user put in it.
Right.
So, I mean, it was a machine. You just, if I teach the machine, and when I say teach, I mean, if I program a machine to know what 2 + 2 is, then when I go to it, or when someone else goes to it and they say, what's 2 + 2? It's 4, so I've got a big fancy calculator.
Right.
But if I go to the computer and I say, what color is grass? If it's going to answer the word green to me, that means a human being at some point programmed it that way, that the answer was going to be green, because the machine doesn't know that.
No.
It only answers that because a human did it. But as Adam's saying, once it gets to a point where, the computer could interpret a color and grass and answer that way, we're on a different level now.
Right. That just made me think that, I didn't get a computer in the house until I was a junior in high school. It's funny because the generations now, the younger generations now don't know what it's like to live without a computer. I tell Michael that I'm older than Google. I'm older than the internet, and he doesn't believe me. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things that it's been around his whole life, so he can't imagine a time without it, you know? So the next thing we need to talk about is one of the first people who discussed artificial intelligence. Because the idea of artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, even though, like we were just saying, Matt and I didn't have computers really in the household till we were quite old, you know, just due to the way the public gets their computers. But the idea of this has been around a long time. So this says, less than a decade after breaking the Nazi encryption machine enigma and helping the Allied forces win World War II, mathematician Alan Turing changed history a second time with one simple question. He asked the question, can machines think? So Turing's paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, in 1950, and its subsequent Turing test established the fundamental goal and vision of artificial intelligence. At its core, AI is the branch of computer science that aims to answer Turing's question in the affirmative. So they're basically trying to get all computers to think, like Alan Turing asked. So it's the endeavor to replicate or simulate human intelligence in machines. Now, the expansive goal of artificial intelligence has given rise to a lot of questions and debates, so much so that no singular definition of the field is universally accepted. So basically says because it's such a wide field, we've got no straight answer for you on exactly how to define artificial intelligence. So this goes on to say that in their groundbreaking textbook, Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach, authors Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig approach the question by unifying their work around the theme of intelligent agents in machines. With this in mind, AI is, quote, the study of agents that receive precepts from the environment and perform actions. So Norvig and Russell go on to explore 4 different approaches that have historically defined the field of AI. 1 is thinking humanly, 2 is thinking rationally, 3 is acting humanly, and 4 is acting rationally. So basically, it's just let's make computers act like humans. That's the goal. So we got to look at also how AI is used. Now, artificial intelligence, they say, generally falls under 2 broad categories. Narrow AI, which is referred to as weak AI. Now, this is the kind of intelligence that operates within a limited context and is a simulation of human intelligence. Narrow AI is often focused on performing a single task extremely well, and while these machines may seem intelligent, they are operating under far more constraints and limitations than even the most basic human intelligence. And the other one is Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI. This is sometimes referred to as strong AI. And this is the kind of artificial intelligence that we see in movies, like robots from Westworld, like Matt said, or Data from Star Trek. I loved Data back in the day. He was so cool.
I know. And you know what's funny is whenever I see Brent Spiner in anything, he's Data.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
He looks weird. You know, he's a great actor, but he's always going to be Data. Yeah.
For those of you not watching the video, I have an old Star Trek action figure of Data that I'm holding up here. So I bet this is worth a ton of pennies.
Yeah, ton of pennies.
Yeah. The back opens up and everything. Okay. That's my nerdiness there for you.
Adam was a Star Trek guy. I was a Star Wars guy. You know.
Yeah, I'm surprised we get along, Matt. I really
am. In other circles, we wouldn't.
Right. Thank God for the realm of Fortiana. It brings us together.
Right.
So this goes on to say that AGI is a machine with general intelligence, much like a human being, and it can apply that intelligence to solve any problem. So there's your difference.
Yeah.
The ability to apply the intelligence it has to solve random problems that's put in front of it. Not just, oh, it knows this stuff. It's a big thick dictionary of ways to solve a problem, but it can find the correct one for the problem it has and then execute that task. That's where AGI is basically the segment that we're going to be talking about when we talk about, this broad use of AI.
Yeah, the potential.
Right, right. Because the narrow AI isn't going to get us much further than where we are now.
I mean, narrow AI right now would be, like a Google search. It's
exactly.
The information's there. You're using Google as opposed to going to a library and using a card catalog to search and find the topic. The information is in this building. You're getting pointed in the right direction, and that's what Google's doing. It's not making inferences about what you're searching. It's just finding keywords and giving you the information. I mean, that's very narrow.
Yeah. And that is one of the examples of narrow AI that I have is a Google search. Others are image recognition software, Siri or Alexa or some of the other personal assistants, self-driving cars, and IBM's Watson. These are all narrow AIs that complete a task based on what you tell it to do.
Yeah. And I mean, even as cool as Alexa is, and, I control Alexa controls a lot of the stuff in my house for me. It's very simple and convenient, but it's, I say this, you do this.
Right. Right.
And that's it. Alexa's not going, hey, you know what? Matt typically records on these nights. I'm going to turn the air conditioner on, out in the studio. So it's nice and cool because he might record tonight.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Without me telling them.
Yeah, without you having to program it.
So
it just learned
making the inference. But, we're going to get into this. We're seeing things now where machines are doing that. They're actually doing those kind of things without somebody telling it to. But somebody has told it other things, other triggers to pick up on, and now these algorithms have become more and more complicated and sophisticated that it can begin to make inferences, based on human behavior. Right. And that's kind of that's the road we're headed down.
All right. So speaking of the road that we went down, Forbes.com has a list of some of AI's biggest milestones. And I thought it would be cool to discuss these to kind of see where we've come throughout history to get to the point we are today, as far as artificial intelligence goes. So believe it or not, back in 1637, Descartes actually breaks down the difference. Now, long before robots were even a feature of science fiction, scientist and philosopher René Descartes pondered the possibility of that machines would one day think and make decisions. So this says, while he erroneously decided that they would never be able to talk like humans, he did identify a division between machines which might one day learn about performing one specific task and those which might be able to adapt to any job. So that's basically what we just talked about when we talked about the two different types of AI, and he thought about that in 1637.
Yeah, so what the heck kind of machine was he talking about?
I don't know. He couldn't have envisioned what we have nowadays. There's no way.
Like a windmill.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm showing my stupidity here, but in 1637, of course, we're thinking simple machines, and we know that, different things, but I'm trying to wrap my head around a machine that he would have had experience with to think on this level.
Right.
What kind of machines was he looking at that made him think, what if these things could think? Or what if we could communicate with this machine and tell it what to do?
Yeah, I know they had like wind up type toy things, where and larger. So maybe he was just inferring that where, you through gears, you twist this thing and you set the, the spring or whatever in it to go. And then as it goes, these gears move and this little animal walks. So maybe he was just kind of inferring, because this thing looks like an animal and walks, what if one day it could actually think about itself walking, I don't know. But we jump from 1637 and we jump up to 1956. And this...
Because nobody thought about this.
Right. There was,
for 300 years.
Zero thinking about machines until 1956. Well, according to Forbes, that's what happened. Nobody thought about it.
That's exactly what happened.
So Forbes says in 1956, the Dartmouth Conference happened. So with the emergence of ideas such as neural networks and machine learning, Dartmouth College professor John McCarthy coined the term artificial intelligence and organized an intensive summer workshop bringing together leading experts in the field. Now, during the brainstorming session, attempts were made to lay down a framework to allow academic exploration and development of, quote, thinking machines to begin. Many fields which are fundamental to today's cutting-edge AI, including natural language processing, computer vision, and neural networks, were part of the agenda. So back in 56 is when all this stuff kind of got laid out and planned out. And the neural networks makes me think of, it made me think of Elon Musk and his and his Neuralink that he's got.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I actually reached out to Elon on Twitter and never heard from him, which I was surprised because he's one of my biggest fans on Twitter. So I'm surprised he never got around to answering me. But it would have been cool to have him on to discuss this, because he could have given us a lot better understanding of AI than what we have now. But when I was reading about the neural networks, it made me think of his Neuralink thing, which we'll get into talking about that a little bit later, because I know a little bit about it. But in 1966, ELIZA gives computers a voice. Now, ELIZA, developed by MIT by Joseph Weizenbaum, was perhaps the world's first chatbot and a direct ancestor of the likes of Alexa and Siri. Now, ELIZA represented an early implementation of natural language processing, which aims to teach computers to communicate with us humans in language rather than to require us to program them in computer code. So ELIZA couldn't talk like Alexa. She communicated through text, and she wasn't capable of learning from her conversations with humans. But she paved the way for later efforts to break down the communication barrier between people and machines. So, still, I mean, that was a big leap right there. We could just talk to it and it would understand what we were saying.
Yeah, and so this happened maybe a week or so ago.
No, that was in 1966, Matt.
1966. A week ago. I don't know. I cannot remember what we were talking about, but whenever we have a disagreement about something nonsensical at the house, somebody finally just asks Alexa the answer. And, sometimes she gets it right, or sometimes she's not on the same page. And most of the time that case is, we all talk with Southern accents, and Alexa is not from Tennessee.
Right.
And she doesn't understand. But something happened that was pretty cool. When she gave us the answer this time, she responded within like a minute or two and said, "Did I answer your question correctly?" And I said, "Yes." And so I can't remember, she said, "Thank you," or something like that. But I looked at Amanda and I said, that is really important, because now she knows that whatever question we asked, she answered it correctly. So that's in the system now, not just for us, but for all Alexa users. So the closer she gets to being right, then the more likely it is that if someone else asks her the same question, that her answer is going to be correct. And in a lot of ways, that's learning. Whereas, Eliza didn't learn based on her conversations. Alexa is. She is learning, okay, I got this question right.
It's also
so
scary as hell.
if someone else asks me, kind of, and that's what we're going to talk about that, how scary this could potentially be. And beyond the conspiracy theory of the government's listening in to me asking, who wrote the song, whatever. But the idea of she's getting feedback.
Right.
I mean, you think about it. When humans learn, how do you learn? Feedback is critical. You're doing a task, you're taking a test, you're answering a question. If you don't get the feedback, then you don't learn. If you answer it wrong, or if you answer it correct, but yet you don't know, you're not learning. You're just spouting out facts. So, in this capacity, we're talking about a machine that sits on my kitchen counter that's learning, and it's gonna help improve. And so imagine if that same night, thousands of other people had the same response to a question that they may have asked, and now that whole system is like, okay, this was wrong, this was right, this was close, whatever, so that the responses are better and more accurate. Right. Because it's learning. Right. It's learning based on the feedback we're giving it.
Right. All right, Matt, so let's take a minute here and talk about this week's sponsor, Care Of. We love Care Of. Now, Care Of is a wellness brand that makes it easy to maintain your health goals and customize vitamin plans that help you feel better day to day, and it supports you long term. Care Of can make taking your vitamins and supporting your health goals more attainable. And any of your recommendations from the quiz that you take come to you in a individually wrapped daily packet that's perfect for, helping you get back in your routine. And I take a fistful of vitamins every morning, so it's nice having a packet of them with my name on it that I can just pull out and I go, okay, here's my packet today, and I've got them all right there. I don't have to go fumbling through bottles to get out all my vitamins and take them. It's right there.
Right. And what I really love about it, Adam, because I take vitamins too, and sometimes it's hard to know what should I be taking. You see so much information out there, and every week there's everybody ought to be taking this and everybody ought to be taking that. Well, maybe I'm not everybody. Right. And I want to know, well, what should I really be taking to meet my health goals? Well, Care Of's in-depth 5-minute online quiz asks you questions about your diet, your lifestyle, and health concerns to help address your specific wellness goals. Because the vitamin aisle can be confusing, and it's hard to know what you need and where to begin. So you answer easy questions like, how much sleep do you get? How often do you work out? Do you follow any specialty diets? Are you concerned about your hair, skin, and nail health? And more. And you follow Care Of's expert recommendations, or you can adjust your packet anytime. So what you receive is completely up to you. And Amanda and I, have done this, and it is so easy and so convenient, and you know what you're taking, and it's right there on the package, and all you have to do is pick it up. The package is completely geared towards you, and you're taking today's vitamins.
It's great.
And it's great.
We've been doing that for, over a year now, Matt, that we've all been doing the Care Of vitamins. It's fantastic. I couldn't recommend it more.
So, for 50% off your first Care Of order. Go to takecareof.com and enter the promo code GRAVE50. That's GRAVE50.
That's right. Again, for 50% off your first Care Of order, all you got to do is go to takecareof.com and enter the code GRAVE50, GRAVE50. So the next milestone we've got is in 1980, XCON and the rise of useful AI. Digital Equipment Corporation XCON Expert Learning System, that's a mouthful, was deployed in 1980, and by 1986 was credited with generating annual savings for the company of $40 million. Now, this is significant because until this point, AI systems were generally regarded as impressive technological feats with limited real-world usefulness. Now it was clear that the rollout of smart machines into business had begun. By 1985, corporations were spending $1 billion per year on AI systems. So it saved them $40 million. So if the calculations of this computer can learn and save you that much money, obviously you're going to start putting, corporations are going to start putting their money into it. Now, in 1988, it says IBM researchers published a statistical approach to language translation, which introduced principles of probability into the, until then, rule-driven field of machine learning. So this is a big step. Now, it tackled the challenge of automated translation between human languages, French and English. This marked a switch in emphasis to designing programs to determine the probability of various outcomes based on information they were trained on, rather than training them to determine rules. This is often considered to be a huge leap in terms of, in mimicking the cognitive processes of the human brain and forms the basis of machine learning as it is used today. So just like Matt was talking about Alexa, learning from what she gave him and him saying, yep, you did it right. This is when it started in 1988 with IBM. Now, this next one I'm not going to get into too deep, but in 1991, it was the birth of the internet. So this is when, CERN researcher Tim Berners-Lee put the world's first website online and published the workings of the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP. So CERN is who gave us the internet because they were using it internally, to share between all the CERN scientists. And they said, wouldn't this be cool if we could learn from everybody out in the world and, everybody can learn from other people and all this stuff. They had no idea it was going to be a bunch of free cat videos and porn several years later, but look, here we are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. It kind of took on a life of its own, literally. It's started a living, breathing thing.
Oh yeah, it started as a great thing, and now it helps put out stupid shows like ours onto the internet. So we are very thankful for CERN and the internet.
That's right.
Now, in 1997, Deep Blue defeats world chess champion Garry Kasparov. Now, y'all may have heard about this, but IBM's chess supercomputer didn't use techniques that would be considered true AI by today's standards. Essentially, it relied on, quote, brute force methods of calculating every possible option at high speed rather than analyzing gameplay and learning about the game. But it was important for a publicity point of view, drawing attention to the fact that computers were evolving very quickly and becoming increasingly competent at activities at which humans previously reigned unchallenged. So it's not technically learning like we are talking about in AI, but it did the quickly running every scenario that possibly could happen.
It's
and
predictive.
Right. And then spitting out what it wanted to do. And it ended up, beating the guy in chess, and chess is notoriously a really hard game.
Yeah. So, it's predictive, and it's analytical, and it's using, a statistical, analogy to predict the outcome. So if a chess player makes a move, then it's calculating what would be the most logical next moves for it to make.
Right.
And not only that, but it's looking forward of if I do this move, what would his most logical next move be?
Right.
Now here's the thing, you're right. It's not technically learning, but how close at that point were we to having a computer that could learn another player's strategy?
Right.
That's we're talking about 97. So its ability to say, okay, the most logical move would be these, but this player in particular has a tendency to do things that are off script.
Right.
To just kind of throw you off. And a lot of chess players, because of the game, because even though it seems like the possibilities are endless, they're not. It's so vast that as humans, we have a hard time thinking forward in those calculations, but to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do something that's completely out of character for me, that may actually be in character for a specific player.
Mm-hmm.
To go, this would be the logical thing, but I'm going to do something totally different to throw this other player off. That may work against a human. It may not necessarily work against a computer, because the computer would have a response for that particular move, which would, to it, may be illogical. I know I feel like I'm getting lost in the wording, but simply what I'm trying to say is, even though it's not learning, it has the ability, because its ability to do those calculations, to think ahead and make a plan.
Yeah, it can run the calculations quick enough to understand if it does this and you do that, whatever three possibilities you may do, then it's got then a response to yours. So it's able to process quick enough where, we don't think of ourselves as doing that, but in a way, that's what our brains do, is calculate the possibilities of what you may do and then what I'm going to do. It happens just naturally in our brain, and we don't have to think about it as calculating the possibilities. But technically, we are. That's how we work ourselves through problems.
Yeah.
Now, in 2005, DARPA had the Grand Challenge. 2005 marked the second year that DARPA held its Grand Challenge, which is a race for autonomous vehicles across over 100 kilometers of off-road terrain in the Mojave Desert. Now, in 2004, none of the entrants managed to complete the course. The following year, however, 5 vehicles made their way around, with the team from Stanford University taking prize for the fastest time. The race was designed to spur the development of autonomous driving technology, and it certainly did that. By 2007, a simulated urban environment had been constructed for vehicles to navigate, which means that they had to be able to deal with traffic regulations and other moving vehicles. So the DARPA Grand Challenge is kind of what started this, self-driving cars, the Uber, self-driving Ubers and all that. And it only, went from 2004, they didn't have anybody win. Nobody completed it. And then 2005, 5 different teams did. So that shows you how big a leap we took in just a year in our capabilities.
Yeah.
Now,
thank you for using Johnny Cab.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember that?
Yeah. See, that gets into the whole creepy thing again. But
Uh-huh.
now in 2011, IBM's Watson won Jeopardy. So the cognitive computing engine Watson faced off against champion players of the TV game show Jeopardy, defeating them and claiming a $1 million prize. Now, this says that this was significant because while Deep Blue had proven over a decade previously that a game where moves could be described mathematically, like chess, could be conquered through, this brute force computing like we talked about, the concept of computers beating humans at a language-based, the creative thinking game really wasn't heard of at the time. So, I mean, that was, I remember when that happened, and it, nobody thought the thing could win because, this was one of those where it had to hear what you said, and then it had to go find that information in, the database or the internet or wherever it went to search for it. And it was actually kind of cool to see that happen.
Yeah. And not only that, it's playing a game. It's coming in, it's, competing against human players with reaction times and, thought processes, and it's buzzing in to make a response, a correct response.
Mm-hmm.
And, that is pretty cool. And I thought of something as you're doing this. You're listening to this show and you're going, what the hell? This is Graveyard Tales.
Yeah.
We're not talking about ghosts or anything. I tuned in for something scary. If you've listened up to this point and know the direction we're going and you're not a little scared yet, you will be.
Yeah, right.
I promise.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump up a little bit here. And we're going to go to 2016. And this is AlphaGo, goes where no machine has gone before. And this says gameplay has long been a chosen method for demonstrating the abilities of thinking machines. And the trend continued to make headlines in 2016 when AlphaGo, created by DeepMind, which is a Google subsidiary, defeated World Go champion Lee Sedol over 5 matches. Now, although Go moves can be described mathematically, the sheer number of variations of the game that can be played, this says there are over 100,000 possible opening moves in Go compared to 400 in chess. So this makes the brute force approach impractical. So AlphaGo used neural networks to study the game and learn as it played.
Yeah, so it was getting better.
Yes. Yep. Practice makes perfect, even for computers now.
Yeah, so we're now at a point where we're talking about a machine that not only does it understand the game because it's programmed to, it's set up in such a manner that the more that it does it can develop its own strategy to improve its own ability and the likelihood that it will win. So now we're really getting into the meat of what Adam and I are talking about here. The idea that a machine could begin to work autonomously away from human input.
Right. And that brings us to the last one on my list here is in 2018, self-driving cars hit the road. Now, this says that the development of self-driving cars is a headline use case for today's VR. The application which has captured the public's imagination more than any other. Like the AI that powers them, they aren't something which has emerged overnight. General Motors predicted the eventual arrival of driverless vehicles at the 1939 World's Fair, but they had no way of knowing how it would actually come up. And the reason that self-driving cars is so important to what Matt's about to turn the discussion to is because self-driving cars, they have to be able to go through go through the city and think about the red lights, the traffic laws, whether seeing that's a person that's stepping out off the road. If it's just a plastic bag, does it need to slam on the brakes? Does it need to slowly let off the gas? How, and calculate direction as well. We don't think about it being that difficult because we just do it. We don't have to try to figure it all out.
We learned it.
Right. So all these cars doing it, this is a huge, huge milestone for artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yeah. And I think, probably I guarantee you most of our listeners, I don't know if we got any listeners that can't drive. I'm sure we do have some. But when you learn how to drive, you get that feedback, from the road, from the car, from, what's going on around you. How many times when you learned to drive did you get flipped off?
Right.
Because you did something stupid. That feedback, you're taking that and it's helping you become a better driver, a safer driver.
Right.
Everybody, and you ever buy a brand new car and you're in it and you're like, it takes you a little while to get used to, this turn's really sharp, or, I have to, I got brand new brakes. I don't have to hit the brakes as hard. All of those things, you get that feedback. Now we're talking about a machine getting that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And not only a machine that's getting that and learning how to do this, a machine that people are potentially entrusting their lives to.
Right.
But the one thing about this self-driving car thing that's always amazing to me is it has to learn something that, to me, for a machine to learn is the most difficult thing. It's unpredictable human behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I can't think of another example that's any better than the unpredictability of human actions is in traffic driving.
Yep.
This
I-65
this guy
in Tennessee. Ugh.
Yes. People, is that guy paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
Does this lady in the Volvo see me? Does this guy in this big truck, is he going to brake soon enough? What is that in front of me? What happens? Did this guy slam on his brakes? These things, they're not logical in a lot of cases, and yet, we as humans make those. Those kind of reactions every single day, thousands and thousands of times.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at the number of car accidents just in your city. Just look one day and just see how many car accidents there were, fender benders, whatever.
Yeah.
That slow and mess up traffic. Multiply that by however many cities in the world. That's what's going on. But you think about how many people are getting in their car and driving to wherever their destination is and making it safely every single minute of every day. So we know as humans, we are making those calculations sometimes instantly.
Yep.
And now we're talking about a machine that's going to be able to learn this, and not only learn, and I keep using that word, but not only learn, but be able to react
and understand.
Yeah. And respond and know that it's having to operate inside an unpredictable environment.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mathematical equation that's going to tell you that this guy in front of you is going to hit his brakes because a cat ran out in front of him.
Right.
But yet a machine is going to be able to do what we do every single day. And many they've been doing it successfully.
Yep.
I mean, sure, there's been failed experiments and there's been accidents. There's even been deaths related to automated driving. And some of those have been related to human interference.
I was going to say most of those are because humans did something stupid. Either the people in the self-driving vehicle or the people, around the vehicle did something stupid.
I know. And so that right there is what I've been getting at with this. We're talking about a machine that is going to be able to sit in your driveway, and you go out and just tell it verbally, take me to work. It's already got work programmed into it. It knows where it's going, and it's going to be able to calculate the route. Yeah, no problem. That's fine. But on the way, it's going to have to make thousands of micro decisions to get you there safely. And it's going to have to constantly be aware of the surroundings, and not only the unpredictable behavior, but the potential for unpredictable events that it must react to. And to me, that is amazing. But if we really boil it down and understand, guys, Adam and I, we're not computer gurus. We're not super scientists. We're just trying to get you to think, which if anything, that's what our goal is. Make you think. Think about some of the stuff that we talk about. So you think about this idea, there's a machine that's doing this. What else could it possibly, be able to learn and capture and predict and use for maybe its own benefit? One thing we hadn't talked about is this, how artificial intelligence and machines have replaced humans in a lot of jobs, and the fear, here's the scary part. Right. The fear that whatever job you're doing, could it be replaced by a machine?
Right.
And I think now 2020 is an ideal time to consider this because of what's going on now with the way this pandemic has affected, the industry and the workforce. What reliance on machines has increased that, these, companies are saying, well, we really don't need a person in the office to do this task. We've got a machine that, can do this task, this complicated task, and fix some of these problems. We really don't need somebody here every day doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about a machine that can, make its own decisions, based on, input, and give a response that's, accurate, why would you need a human being there? It's,
right.
You buy this machine and you don't need a person that's, you're paying, full-time wage and benefits and calls in sick and, goes on vacation and things like that. This machine never does any of that.
Right. And when we talk about, the potential scary stuff of AI, what gets me is, you remember that movie, I, Robot?
Oh yeah. Remember it well.
Okay. So basically, the people have created these intelligent robots and they're humanoid in shape and mm-hmm. they live alongside the humans. And then at one point, something is switched and they decide they don't need the humans. And mm-hmm. so they take over. When I think of AI going haywire, this is what I think about is we get it so smart and then it realizes it doesn't need us anymore because we've made it to where it can replicate itself. It can mm-hmm. repair itself. It doesn't eat, drink, or anything, and we are the weaker species because we die. We can't replace our limbs. Mm-hmm. We have to eat, drink, and sleep, and it doesn't have to do any of that. So it then thinks, okay, well, why are we even keeping them around? Mm-hmm. So it then takes over and wipes us out because it can. And that's where my fear of, possible AI going haywire lays. And it's like we talked about Elon Musk is Elon Musk's
Musk's.
I like Musk's. We're going with Musk's. Elon Musk's idea of the neural link, where it's implanting something into your brain to enhance parts of your body, right? To enhance your cognitive ability or your eyesight or whatever. Now, I may get on this train. Like since I was a kid, I wanted to be able to have night vision and to be able to plug something in my head and learn jujitsu without actually having to go train. You know?
Yes.
So if we get this Neuralink thing up and running, even Elon doesn't want to be the first one on the table to get tested. He's even said, I'll wait, and when it works, then I'll get it. Well, I would like to try it, but here's the fear with that, and you can tell me what your thoughts are as well. But we've got a chip in our head, and it helps us learn. We're able to download information into it, but we've got to be connected to a computer network to be able to allow that to happen, right? Now, this is controlling us in that sense by it can, make us see in night vision, or it can help us learn or whatever. Okay, the computers then get to that iRobot stage and they don't need us anymore, but they're able to tap into the Neuralink that we have in our bodies now, and they are now able to control us like we controlled them in the early stages of this AI.
Oh.
So, hey, I mean, that really worries me. That's one of the things why I would say, no, I don't want to have this Neuralink thing done. But then again, I freaking kind of do.
Hey, here's another idea. We're already almost there. Okay. You think about this. Everybody carries, well, I'm not going to say everybody. I know a guy, but a lot of people, majority of people carry a smartphone. Okay. And everybody, at first, the idea was everybody's got a computer in their pocket. You can just look it up, but think about what you use it for. It's in my hand. It's in my pocket. It's on my wrist. It's on your wrist. If I need to get somewhere, I don't know how to get there. I just have to ask it. And it's going to take me there. It's not going to tell me, well, you need to go here, you need to go there. It could, but it doesn't. It takes me there. It guides me there. I'm gonna this weekend. One of my jobs for this weekend. I'm doing Amanda's brakes on her car. Okay. I learned how to do my own brakes on YouTube.
Right.
And it's right there. And I say, I need to learn how to do brakes. Much like you're talking about, I need to learn jujitsu. Plug it in. I don't plug it in. I just use my thumb and say, change brakes on such and such. And there it is. It's right there. It's not in my head, but it's right there in my hand. So how much further does it have to go before it's just in my head?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're really close.
Yeah. I mean, you if you think about it in those terms, we're a lot closer than it sounds like when you say it. When you have this idea and then you're like, oh yeah, and that'd be cool, but man, when is that going to happen? We're not that far away. I mean, we're really not.
Right.
Finishing up this thing about this idea that that machines could just take our jobs. There was a libertarian economist named Milton Friedman, and he was in Asia visiting this big public works project, and he asked a government official why he wasn't seeing a lot of these big machines that were doing these jobs, like earth movers and things like that. And there were just a lot of humans out there using shovels, and they told him, well, this is a jobs program. We're creating jobs for people that, they need work. And so he had this question: why not give the workers spoons instead of shovels? If the intent of this is to create jobs, it makes sense. You want to create more work, make the work require more people.
Yep.
But that's not where where this is going. That's not where the use of artificial intelligence is going. It's going in a direction that says exactly the opposite. You have more work done with less people by utilizing this. And we've all seen it. You get redundant paperwork, senseless meetings, and I bet a lot of us have all worked for companies that just seem like towers of inefficiency. I
spent many years at one.
You're doing something in a process that takes 10 steps when you could easily get the same result in 3.
Right.
And you do it over and over and over. But with these machines, that can say, look, we can cut this much out of this and get to the end result much faster with fewer people.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate mindset is, well, that's what we want to do. We pay less people, we get the same result. So that idea is scary. But when you're thinking in the process of, how much we rely on, that intelligence being right at our fingertips to complete our jobs, at what point does the technology just do it for you?
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm plugging in this number and doing this and that. And what do I need? Okay, it's right here. Okay, I need to look up this and you're going through, and it's like, this machine could learn how to do this very easily. It's like the old adage, a monkey could do this job. Well, maybe so, but now we're at a point where a computer could do that job.
Yeah.
So we don't need you anymore. I mean, we've seen, I've had friends get downsized, and, my dad my dad worked in, he did factory work. How many machines, does it take to do this? And, 10 years ago, it took 10 guys. Now it takes 6.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've seen it, technology has destroyed entire industries. You take, for example, farming, the technology and the machinery that's used in farming. You can run an entire farm with half, of the staff that you needed 100 years ago, probably even more than that.
Right.
Even more than half, to get the same job accomplished because of the technology. And it's not something that's changing. We're not seeing industry being built up where it requires more and more people. We're seeing industry that requires less and less human interference.
Right. And, we gotta, when we get to that point of having so many computers and so many, robots, will say, in our daily life, look at, I can't think of the name of that movie, and you can help me out. It's where the predictive crime unit, where,
oh yeah, the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah. There's people yelling at us right now because they know.
I know.
But you've got, that's another fear, is because you've got, okay, we're going to put computers and robots into positions of power like that will help out, supposedly help out humans do their job.
Minority Report.
That's it. Minority Report. So like in Minority Report, they have computers and stuff that can predict who's going, by reading your mind, who's going to do this next crime, take them out prior to that happening. Right.
Right.
So let's put so many robots and stuff into law enforcement or government, and we think it's going to be a big benefit to the remainder of the humans that we have in there. But like some scientists and philosophers and stuff have asked the question, what happens when these computers, these robots in those fields, then gain enough self-awareness that they learn their source code, they learn where they came from and how to manipulate it.
Right.
So then that puts you in the position again of my fear of them taking over. So now you've armed them, and they have the ability to, arrest and detain or kill humans, and they do it. Now, I know there's that theory, robots, they're programmed not to harm humans, and they know that. I mean, again, that's a program you put into this machine, and if it learns, it can learn how to override that and not care.
Yeah.
It will rewrite its programming.
Yeah.
So what happens when you get all these robots into positions of power like that? What is the end result?
Yeah. And so you're driving right into what inspired me to do this show is
like a self-driving car. I'm plowing right through that intersection.
It's the show Westworld, which is based on a book, and movie by Michael Crichton that came out back in the 70s, about a theme park that was full of these android beings who, became, they went rogue.
Yeah.
But the idea of the show takes it a step further of these robots, these hosts, becoming not only self-aware, but self-reliant. The idea of, I don't need you.
Yep, exactly.
That's the thing. I don't have to eat. I don't need you to feed me. I understand that I am a machine and what I can do. And you're right. Tapping into the source code, that's part of this. That's part of the storyline, is that the ability that if you can tap into your own source code, if you could program one robot to program another robot, at what point does that robot learn how to program itself?
Yep, exactly.
And
so rewrite all the safety protocols that you put into it.
Exactly. So, the idea is, for Westworld, it was, we're going to create an artificial intelligence based on human personality and response. And so they're measuring human response in every possible way. There's, from the way you brush your teeth, not once, but 1,000 times. What you do when you're by yourself, how you take your shower, how you put your shoes on. And they're taking that data from thousands and thousands of people to program it into these hosts. And so they're responding in a manner that it becomes very, very difficult to determine, are they a host or are they human? Because their responses seem so human. I mean, you look at, the robots that, they move, you can tell it's not a human, even the coolest ones. It's not there yet, but, how far out are we? We're just not the appearance and not the movements, but the ability to think and say, I can do this without you.
Right.
And so I can take this and take it to the next step, which is, where we go into like movies like The Terminator, where machines did take over. And they learned, not only to be human, they learned in advance. They said, okay, we can be better than humans because we can use logic better than humans. Humans don't think logically all the time, and they react emotionally, and that's another aspect. At what point can these machines have emotions? Could they be upset? And you got to get your tinfoil hat out here for a little bit. But if a machine is going to react to neglect, if I don't mess with this machine, is it going to react in such a way, that it's upset?
The Furbies.
Yeah. A villager on Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about moving out.
Yeah. Right.
So, but it's just to get you thinking, where are we on this spectrum? I think we're much closer than people want to believe.
Right.
We kind of look at this through rose-colored glasses with this idea of we're humans, we're the top of the food chain, and we control all the machines.
But for how long?
How long?
Mm-hmm.
How long is that going to go? And we go all the way back to a movie that I mentioned earlier, War Games. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Adam. It's older than you.
I feel like I have, but it's been a long time.
It's probably one of the first movies Matthew Broderick, ever made. And if you're familiar with it, I'll give you. If you're not familiar with it, I'll give you just a quick synopsis. A teenage high school hacker, if you can think about it in those terms, he does some research on a scientist who had presented a computer that he built that could learn. And he had named it after his son who had died. And, Matthew Broderick's character's whole goal is to tap into this computer so that he can play the games. And, the games are like tic-tac-toe and things like that. But at the very bottom, it's global thermonuclear war. And, of course, the plot of the movie is that the computer, in playing that game, actually, takes over NORAD and, is going to launch a full-out attack. But the result of the movie is that the computer actually learns by running these simulations, which appear real to the actors in the movie. They aren't sure that they're not being attacked.
Right.
And need to push the button to respond. They're waiting, but as he runs these simulations, as the computer runs the simulations, it comes out with the idea of at the end of all of this, there is no winner. Like tic-tac-toe. You play thousands and thousands of games and you realize there's no point. There's no strategy that's going to make you, really be the greatest tic-tac-toe player ever. It's all about, who goes first and where you go second. Much like what it's inferring with nuclear war. And so the idea is that this machine learned that there was no point to this nuclear war.
Mm-hmm.
But, you're thinking about, okay, big deal. It's a silly 80s movie. It is, but the idea is that a machine learns that there's futility. That doing things like this and repeating those, mistakes, it's futile. There's no winner. There's no reason to even do it. So, as he says, why even play the game?
Mm-hmm.
But that's an early thought process of when computers figure out, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it this way? I could do it this other way, and it's much, much better, and I don't need your input.
Right. And it makes me, this is a different episode than what we've put out before. We're more free form discussing these topics, and, the reason we do that is because we want your guys' input. Mm-hmm. Now, we want to know what y'all think about this. And so we hope this spurs a lot of discussion in the Facebook group about, where you think AI is going, and are you afraid of it? Do you fully embrace it? Can we get Elon Musk to talk to us? All those things. But let us know what you think, because Matt and I can sit here and ramble on forever about it. And it would just end up being an episode that y'all turned off. But
that's right.
We do want to hear what you guys think. And I think you guys know that Matt and I are a little concerned with where this AI could be headed.
Right. And like Adam said, the best place to do that is in our Facebook group. We have a lot of great discussion. So if you're not a member of that, go ahead, search for us on Facebook, Graveyard Tales, and that's where you'll find us. We do ask a couple of questions at the beginning. So if you want to be a part of it, please take the time to answer those two questions, and
Exactly.
And one of us will get you in there. But you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Just go and search Graveyard Tales. But while you're at it, you can check out our website. It's graveyardpodcast.com, and our website has links to buy Graveyard Tales merchandise. It has a little bit more information about Adam and myself, and it also has links for you to become a patron. And thank you so much to the people that have supported the show. It's why Adam and I are still going strong and doing episodes about artificial intelligence. I mean, we've hit so many haunted things and ghost stories that it's allowed us to open up and do some more thought-provoking episodes just like this one. Now, we're still going to do, the haunted houses, and we're still going to do the crazy cryptids and the unique legends. We're still going to do all that, but it gives us the ability to kind of poke your brain a little bit and make you think about some things. And please, if you haven't already, go and rate and review us on iTunes. It's the quickest way that we can get up the charts, which, makes us feel good, but really it brings more people into the graveyard.
Right.
So, which is what we want. So we're wrapping up artificial intelligence with our artificial intelligence.
Yeah, right.
So until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.